Hi everyone, this is Shweta from NEO, and today I have a very special guest for you all who's going to throw light on a topic which is very intriguing, though let's explore, but yet is so important. Like it forms the crux, the core of any education system and learning journey of every child. And the topic is Science of Reading, SOR. I'm sure now that I have disclosed the topic, it would have been so obvious to all of you. We all know how important, how elemental reading is, when it comes to learning. Like it's no matter how many resources or how quality resources we make available to any student, if that student is not able to read and comprehend, then he won't be able to absorb those resources, right? That is why today's topic, where we'll be deep diving and we will kind of understand what science of reading is all about, what are some of the misconceptions, how it can be implemented, especially in the context of India, and a whole lot of things around that. With that, let me break the suspense and introduce our guest for today. And she is Asnaha Farheen, a seasoned IB educator, PIP leader from Bangladesh with an extensive experience spanning over 15 plus years, and she has been actively involved in various roles under the IBEN framework, including IB evaluation and authorization, which makes her very, very relevant to what we are also doing at NEO. All right. Well, thank you, Asnaha ma'am. Thank you so much for accepting this request of doing this one-on-one exclusive interview with NEO. So without making our audience wait any further, let's directly dive into it. And I have my first question for you, which is, what are some common misconceptions about the science of reading, and why is it even important to clarify what SOR is not?
Shweta, for this wonderful question. Before getting started, I would say I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you have provided and the wonderful platform that you have created for all like-minded educators to come share and create something. I would say it's a great approach that you have come up with. And moving ahead to your question, I would say that science of reading is something which has, come up with a lot of misconceptions, especially in countries like India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, where it is not highly prevalent, I would say. So I have something being a primary person. Can you recognize what it is?
Looks like some fruit.
Okay. Can you name it?
Is it like I'm not really sure. Pumpkin? Some sort of pumpkin?
You're not close.
Coconut?
Thank you for so much for guessing it for me. So this is actually a pomelo, right? And this is a citrus fruit, one of the largest citrus fruit. And I would say this is an ancestor of grapefruit, but it is not sour. It is sweet and highly nutritious. So like you asked me about science of reading and why I have, brought this. So science of reading is something which has multiple layers, just like this fruit, which I have just showed you. If we really want to taste the fleshy, meaty, nutritious, fruit, we really need to peel down the layers and then we can get into. In the same way, reading is something which people think that comes naturally, just like speaking. And we need not to give it in a very sequential, cumulative, and prescribed manner. We just want to give the students the books and they'll start reading, right? Or we can start with mugging up alphabets, irrespective of the letter and sound relationship. And then, giving them a list of spelling, which we think that they will all mug up and become pro readers. This is not the case. So misconceptions about science of reading is that it is all about phonics, but phonics is a component of it. If we talk about science of reading, it deals with the phonemic awareness, it deals with the phonological awareness, the comprehension and language comprehension and the reading comprehension both. So there are multiple layers, just like the pomelo that I have shared with you, right? And it has to be done in a very prescribed, sequential and cumulative manner. Not like in a way like whatever comes in and we just start teaching, and it should be built on skills that the learners should achieve at certain period of time. It should be age specific, it should be skill specific. So these are some of the misconceptions that we have about science of reading, right? Apart from that, people often misinterpret science of reading as a kind of one-size-fits-all approach, or an approach which is an intervention, something like that, which it is not, right? So these are some of the misconceptions, and clarifying misconceptions are very, very important so that we can make the best use of science of reading. Well, science of reading is a body of research, I would say interdisciplinary body of research, which takes in information from various disciplines like cognitive sciences, education, and so on and so forth. And they just let us know that what are the best ways to read, and how does students take up reading, which skills should be taken first, and what should be the sequential order. So these are some of the questions that science of reading answers. So that's it.
That's a beautiful analogy, ma'am. I love the way that you explained this. I mean, like you could have just explained it directly, but that wouldn't have made so much sense. So thank you for bringing up that amazing analogy. Next question that I have for you, ma'am, is can you explain in simple terms what the science of reading is and how it integrates research from neuroscience, psychology, and education? I'm sure this is a very relevant question for you, you having, a lot of experience in these aspects of science. So would love to throw some light on this aspect.
The viewers, I'm not an expert, I'm a learner. So I would just answer as per my understanding and the experience. Obviously, I have been doing studies to implement it in my own school setting, but we are at a very cursory level of implementation. So, but still, I'll give you a sneak peek into it, that how come it is incorporating, several things. Because, as I said, that reading is the work of brain, right? Speaking comes naturally, but reading is something which deals with orthography to sound to meaning, right? So if we talk in technical terms, before the simple terms, I would say the reading equation as per the science of reading is reading comprehension multiplied by decoding equal to language comprehension. As I said, it is an equation. So it is not reading comprehension added with decoding is equal to language comprehension. So if decoding is 0, the product will be 0. The child will not be able to read and comprehend. So if you understand, so if it is like making relationship with the decoding and the phonemic awareness, this will help the child to learn reading and also read to comprehend and understand. So this is the emphasis of science of reading. It's not just reading for the sake of reading, reading with comprehension, reading with understanding of the letter and sound relationship, reading with understanding of decoding those words, segmenting, blending, making the sense out of it.
So, yes, ma'am, the next thing I would want you to kind of share your insights on is why do we need to implement the science of reading globally, particularly in regions with low literacy rates? And what are the long-term benefits of doing this?
So, if we have an idea about what is happening in the world and the organization that are working for the upliftment of the community, so for UNESCO, the early literacy is one of the priority. So if we can understand the goal, right? UN SDG is talking about quality education. And a person who cannot read, write, and comprehend cannot do things which are normal. Like he or she must be a prodigy, if he or she is doing something without reading and writing and understanding. So reading is early literacy, and reading are the building blocks of whatever a child is doing in the long run in his or her life, right? So if for countries like where the literacy rate is low, if we can focus on this particular aspect, which is early literacy, there will be, we will be able to mitigate the situations where we are talking about dropout rates, academic gaps, learning disabilities, right? As in dyslexia. So there's a huge, population in the classroom which are unable to read because of dyslexia, right? And if we are able to identify this and also intervene at the right time with the right kind of approach, with the right kind of tools, so we will be able to solve this problem in a more better way, and which will lead to help us to fight with the problems like economic development and individual empowerment. Basically, the learners, those who are sitting in our classroom today, are the future, right? So we are actually nurturing future, and having this forward-looking approach with a backward plan is highly important.
So true, ma'am. Like I have experienced it myself that the students who lack the basic foundational literacy and numeracy, they find it so difficult when they even go to higher grades, no matter how sharp they are, no matter how strong cognitive skills they have. If they're not understanding what the educator is telling in the class, it becomes really difficult to grasp. And for countries like India, where, English is already not very common language, and most of our schools are English medium, that's a common language for education, but not amongst the, families in day-to-day conversation. So I think this makes a lot of sense, and which is why we are actually doing a very specific event on this whole topic, bridging foundational gaps the coming Saturday. So
yes, the entire series, is something which we all are really looking up to, and it's indeed a great topic because you are trying to get at the root cause of everything. I would say.
yes, thank you so much, ma'am. Since you're talking about India, I would like you to answer that in countries like India, where there is significant linguistic and cultural diversity, and how can we effectively apply the principles of science of reading?
Like science of reading has been applied across the globe. You will find success stories from Africa to America, right? And I am able to give you very specific examples from India, but India being we are Indians and we love our diversities. But with all good things there comes challenges. So science of reading is, as I said, it is a vast body of research. So it is applicable to most of the languages, with multiple scripts. The only thing which we need to take care that it should build on the multilingualism. So the child's language, the mother tongue should be taken into account, and the learning should be culturally adaptable, and the approach of teaching and learning should be culturally responsive. So if the English is the second language or the third language, the phonemic awareness, the decoding abilities can be taught, keeping in mind the culture and the first language. So, for example, if a child is learning about decoding, the teacher can give instructions in the mother tongue so that the child, is getting it. It's not like teaching English, language of instructions as English. So, language of instructions can be multilingual, but the approach can be same. For example, if I am talking about Johnny and Harry in Indian context, so it would not fit in, right? So I need to bring in those names. If I am sitting in South, so I need to talk about Pongal, right? I need not to talk about what I am celebrating here in Bangladesh is Pahela Baishakh, right? So these are some of the approaches. If we bring it into the classroom, meeting the learner where they are and celebrating who they are, then it will definitely make a difference. But with this, I would say a complete understanding of the processes involved in science of reading, how to teach it, when to teach it, what are the different resources that we can use, complete resources and the training should be provided to teachers. And I think wherever they are, they can apply this approach and get the results which we are trying to achieve in our context.
That's a beautiful perspective to look at, and very, very relevant also. I think that's why in NEP also there's a lot of emphasis on localization and making students aware of their local culture. Yes, thank you for sharing that, ma'am. I would also like to know if there are any real life case studies in your experience where the science of reading has been successfully applied, either in India or globally. And what were the key outcomes of such, initiatives?
So I'll go global, right? I would discuss some of the success stories that is coming all the way from Australia, where they use a direct instruction approach, and 75% of students are reading at or above the grade level, right? And after the structured phonic instruction, and the implementation lasted for 2 years. And another one is from the various states of US, where they did it under the umbrella of dyslexia screening, improved early grade reading proficiency by over 20% with targeted intervention, and which was again a phonics-based instruction, which is one of the skill suggested by science of reading. When we talk about India, as per my research, there is a foundation which is talking about Read India, right? That is the Pratham program, and they didn't work specifically for the science of reading, but they used one of the approach of the science of reading, which is again phonemic awareness, early literacy intervention, and the result that they have achieved are amazing. They have increased the reading proficiency with 27.4% of grade 3 students reading at grade 2 level in rural India. So it's amazing, right? It's amazing, and the results are giving us a ray of hope that if implemented in the right way, in the right manner, it can great results. It would definitely enhance the learning environment and the lives of the learners.
This start that you gave is very, very intriguing, ma'am. Could you please throw a little more light on about this initiative of Pratham, like what they did and how they went about it?
Definitely. I would say I have done this little research, what is happening in India when it comes to reading and early literacy, this thing. So this is a Read India program, which targeted foundational literacy skills. Though not labeled explicitly as science of reading, the program applied research-backed methods like phonic-based instruction. And as I shared with you, the results were amazing, So this is one of the foundation that is working on the means not only for the reading and other things as well, means basically the foundational skills that you are catering through in your series, right? So this foundation name is ASAR. So they have amazing data which they have been collecting for quite number of years, and the data is really amazing. So the result that I was sharing with you, it was the result of 2022, right? So where they have received amazing learning outcome after the implementation of structured phonic implementation for the grade 3 setting, where they have got improved outcome.
Great, great. All right. So we have spoken about in context of India and then globally also. Moving on to what challenges might the educators in developing countries face when trying to implement the science of reading, and how can these be addressed through teacher training or resource adaptation or any other solution that you think have worked or might work?
So Shweta, if you are familiar with John Hattie's work, you must be knowing that he has done a meta-analysis. He has taken research from all over the world and has come up with some of the scale which shows us that what are the most effective methods of teaching young minds. And he says that, you just decrease the student-teacher ratio, means playing around with keeping 10 students with one teacher or giving a very nice setup, but it will not make a difference as powerful and as stronger as keeping the children with an effective teacher, And whom do we call an effective teacher? An effective and effective, I would say both. The teacher should have amazing effective skills as well, And one of the principles that I really love is connection before correction, I would say. Like there should be a connection, there should be an environment of trust in yourself and in others, I would say. One of the things that I would really start with, the teacher should be a lifelong learner. So if we are trying to bring in approaches which are bringing a change in the lives of our learner, we need to be open to unlearn, right? So that is a challenge. Learning is a challenge and relearning is a challenge. Being in, coming out of that mindset that we were doing all things right, because we are not doing all things right. And the field of education is changing at an exponential rate. What we are doing in countries like India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, or other countries which are developing, is something which we really need to think about, because, as I said earlier, we are dealing with the students, those who are the future, right? And they are already sitting in our classroom, and we are in an appointment with the Prime Minister, I would say, right? And we really need to make the best out of it so that we can nurture them in the right direction. So the first thing is the mindset of the teacher. The person should have a growth mindset. So there may be challenges with the mindset. And second thing is adapting the reading, science of reading training, and finding the right kind of training. And after that, the implementation, and after that, the monitoring part of this, because there are some, trainings which fall flat, and there is no outcome of it, if it is not monitored properly. And this is human nature. If we are not, monitoring things, we may come up with areas which we are slipping on, right? So these are some of the areas, the mindset of the teacher. The teacher should be very well aware that I'm going to implement a program which is challenging, and the teacher should be patient. I have showed you that pomelo, if we really want to eat it off, we need to be patient. If we really want to taste that nutritious fruit which is inside that pomelo, then we need to be really patient. We need to have a growth mindset. Third, we need to be open for the changes and challenges that is coming on the way of implementing science of reading. And we should be really, really hopeful that whatever we are doing will bring a change in the lives of the learners, because if they will read well, they will score well in the upcoming years or in their succeeding years, wherever they are in their learning journey.
True. मतलब कि अब इस पूरी सीरीज में से like दो चीज तो मेरे बिल्कुल it just kind of pierce through my heart. One is that pomelo analogy, and then the other thing that you said, connection before correction. I mean, from first principle also, it's so very evident, small children, they have a favorite teacher, and that is the subject that they excel in, right? It's just so evident. So if we can connect with the children, then automatically they will want to hear you, they will want to follow you, and you put that very beautifully. And the other aspects of how teachers can go about implementing. The next thing I would love to hear from you is like, what role does early intervention, especially in terms of phonics and decoding, play in improving reading outcomes under the SOR framework? Now, just diving a little deeper, so getting into little technicalities.
Sit in a classroom, we expect that if we are in a grade 2 classroom, the child is reading, if not with a very profound understanding as a proficient reader or as a fluent reader, but reading well, right? The moment we see a child struggling in grade 2, we can, we can start making prediction the child will face issues in his or her future student life. This is something is very easy. This requires no testing, right? So what are the formative years, the early years starts from nursery until grade 1, and if we can further extend it to grade 2, right? So early intervention means as early as possible, we get to know what are the reading issues the child is facing, what are the right ways. So I would say the right amount of support to the right candidate at the right time, not giving everything to everyone. So here we are not talking about equality. We are talking about being, I would say, being bringing an equitable approach, right? So we know who is where and where are they struggling. There will be learners who will be able to make 3-letter words or would read the sentences nicely, right? There are learners in the same classroom who are unable to make those 3-letter words, and we start labeling them and telling them that they're not reading, they're dumb. For example, I met 2 teachers yesterday talking about a learner, and she was discussing that the learner is unable to identify the letters of the alphabet, and I was like shocked. How come in grade 2? When I met the learner started, discussing about what are his likes and dislikes. And fortunately, he answered all the questions in English. And then I asked him that, can you write your name? And he wrote, I am so and so. Then I asked, can you spell a few words for me? And he did it all. But when I spoke to the teacher and the counselor, they said that he was not replying. Why he was not replying? Because the atmosphere, the class environment was not like that. He was not finding his belonging, and it was too early for the teacher to come up with this approach that he doesn't know it. The problem is he has issues and there are some learning gaps, but not learning disabilities. So early intervention where, we as like I am a pedagogical leader, so I didn't stop there when the teacher said that no, he is having difficulties. I understood the perspective of the teacher, I understood the perspective of the learner, and I helped the learner to find the right steps to improve in the ladder. So we started from there. We had a discussion with a counselor that we have, the SEN counselor, and he spoke about that he does not have a learning disability. He might be having a learning gap. And we started with the phonics approach, even though the child is in grade 2. So if the right intervention would have been applied on this learner, he would have not been struggling in grade 2. Right. And our school is an inclusive school. We take admissions if you're not proficient in English, but still you can take admission in an IB school. So this is the approach that we have for the community. And we always give multilingual support until and unless the child becomes, proficient and comfortable with that language. We also have pull out and push in sessions. So helping the learners where they are. So these are some of the, if we just ignore him where he is, the child which I'm talking about, what will be the outcome? He will become, what should I say, acogonized in the classroom, and he will be a struggling learner and a struggling reader throughout the life. So earlier is better. Early intervention means identifying and just getting rid of those barriers to learning through the structured reading approaches, described and what should I say, by science of reading.
Right. I was, just it suddenly struck me something, while we were talking. There is a lot of buzz in the market about Finland's education system, right? They have been scoring top on this ACER exams and all that. And then when I was researching about it, there was so much emphasis on reading, right? They also have something like, drop everything and read some dear framework in their school. Yeah, newer time. So, like, I think in India, it's something that has been kind of overlooked for quite a while. And I think the main reason is this multilingual thing is very difficult because there are so many languages, so many regions. Although in all the education policies, there is a lot of emphasis on multilingual, but it gets difficult to kind of implement in the schools. So as we are talking about the multilingual part, how can SOR principles be adapted to suit a multilingual classroom? And are there any successful models in countries with multiple languages that would serve as examples?
It's a successful model. You can research more about South Africa. The program
Okay.
made its early grade reading study where phonic based instructions were adapted for multiple local languages, resulting in significant improvement in reading outcomes across language groups. So this is an amazing case study for you to explore more about it.
Got it, got it. Since we are talking about, every student has a different learning gap and it becomes important to find it early on. You need a little kind of projection also to understand, okay, this might lead to this. So what role do you think the technology can play here? Can personalization help? Can technology like speech recognition, because it might be difficult for countries like India, Bangladesh, where teacher to student ratio is high to be able to understand for every student. So there can technologies like speech recognition come in handy where the students just, read out something and with technology we can understand, okay, what might be, the gap here. So if you can throw some light on that.
I will just keep it brief. For example, there are two approaches that you have touched upon in your conversation. One is personalized learning, and another one is differentiation, right? Personalized learning is something where comes learner agency. Learner is taking the decision, what is my learning route and where to go next. So this will come at a little advanced level. Before that comes differentiation, right? Not all learners learn in the same way. Though as for the science of reading, there is a specific sequence which learners follow. So here we are talking about multiple intelligence and this and that, but science of reading says that there is a predictable sequence, and though there are different ways to learn, but there are some commonalities which we can cater to, right? For example, differentiation enhanced through technology, where teachers can make choices as per the content, the delivery of the content, using the decodable text, especially for the learners, those who are struggling with, giving them that text to speech support, kind of assistive technology, or having a learning route plan. I am not getting the right technical word. I think we call it adaptive technology, where the platform itself is, planning a learning route and personalizing it and differentiating it to the learners without the support of the teacher. As you just said, that when we have a teacher student ratio, which is an alarming thing, right? And we can't expect a teacher who's handling 50 student or 40 student to give that individual one-to-one intervention. So in this case, adaptive technology, which can generate the learning routes for the learners as per his or her understanding level or the comprehension level or the reading level, this comes as a support, I would say. And phonics, as we all know, that we all are not native speakers of English, and when we go to different parts of India, the people speak English, in different ways. So what we want our students is to learn right English. And when will they learn right English? When they will listen right English. So here comes, that text-to-speech thing, and also phonics instructions, which are pre-recorded, right? And which learners are listening to and are also seeing some of the visuals. So I'm not a big fan of multiple intelligence, but I would say the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic learners are the three things which we can, look into while planning the instructions. So tech can support greatly, and technology in the hands of great teacher will come up with great outcome, I would say. And without without teachers, tech can't do anything, right? So same applies here. So technology will be a great tool in the arsenal of great teachers.
One last question, and I think it's very, very important to make this conversation holistic. Just the importance of assessments and data-driven interventions in applying the science of reading in low resource settings.
Yeah, so Shweta, I would say that in my context, we are no stake assessment program. I would say so. We don't give any pressure to the students that okay, that fine day we will have assessment, but we formatively assess them every single day, and that's the power, right? So for example, you are a gardener and you have planted a plant, right? And what will you focus more on, measuring the plant or providing the plant with the optimum nourishment, coming up with the right kind of seed, the right kind of soil, and all those things. So you understand that analogy with the assessment. So if your focus is only on measuring, then your assessment is actually killing the learning. But if your focus is monitoring, documenting, evidencing, supporting, then your assessment is actually helping the learner. So I would say that for a reading, this thing as it is, it requires a diagnostic assessment where the child is. In the same way, you're going to a doctor and the doctor know the root cause, that where to target, right? In the same way, all reading instructions, if it is happening at the age of 4 or 5 year old, we have started implementing this, then a baseline assessment should take place. But the outcome of that means, I would say, the purpose of that assessment should be supporting learning and supporting teaching. So it has two purposes. The teacher will take data informed decision to improve their teaching and learning. And apart from that, two important component which we usually miss in the Indian context is the power of self assessment and the power of peer assessment. If as a teacher I'll keep on speaking about, okay, you do this, you do that, you have got a problem here and problem there, they may not listen, because already I have authoritative role in the classroom. That is the other way around. If I have a learning role, they have a very good rapport with me, they may take it. But hearing from a peer in a very positive approach, we can use approaches like a feedback burn, right? Where a child is sharing a positive compliment and then what to improve upon, and further, sharing another positive compliment. So training students to give each other positive feedback, utilizing assessment for improving learning, not for measuring learning, and measuring learning with the purpose of improving learning. So it is intertwined, I would say, and utilizing technology for assessing, right? This will save the time of the teachers. Why? Because we are talking about applying science of reading in the context of India, and not all Indian classroom are having a very healthy student teacher ratio. It is again confined to those elite class, which children are going in those elite school. But if we are talking about rural India, then this is an issue. And if we are training teachers to use technology to take data informed decision, and having the assessment which are data informed, not data driven, I would say this would really, really help. I hope I made it clear. Thank you so much, ma'am. I really look forward to work on this module with you to implement it in NEO. It's a very, very important aspect of what we are trying to achieve, and having someone on board to give us some direction would be really great. So look forward to working closely with you on this specific module of NEO. And yes, it's been a great evening chatting with you. I hope you also enjoyed. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great talking to you, and I'm wishing you all the best in all great things you're